Hey everybody, I'm Sarah Mitchell and this is the Beyond the Table podcast, where we talk about real life, real connection, and how to prepare our families for the real issues that we all face beyond the table. This is episode 2, and this month I'm talking with Renelle and Tyler Good and my husband Justin Mitchell about core values. You don't want to miss it. Let's go. All right, so today I've got my good friends Tyler and Renelle Good with me, and extra special guest, my husband, with me. And so I was just going to have you guys tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah, so we have 2 girls, 15 and 13. We've been married going on 18 years, and we've lived here since 2008, so 15 years. Going on 16 years.
That's awesome. You want to tell everybody a little bit about our family?
Yeah, for sure. Sarah and I have been married for 15 years. We have a daughter who's 14 and a son who's 10. And we've been a part of the church here for 10 years now. Lived here for just a little bit more than that. But yeah, it's a little bit about us.
Awesome. So today we are talking all about core values. And actually, the reason why I had Renelle and Tyler come on is because Renelle was the first, maybe not the first introduction that I had to core values. That would have been my coach, Mary Ann Krabby. But you said something several years ago about core values that stuck out to me. Do you remember what you said?
Yeah, so I came across this quote a while ago. But what I would have said was that integrity is living in alignment with your values. So the idea of if you do not know what is important to you and you just let life happen, life is going to feel really disorganized. So the more that you have the opportunity to figure out what really matters to you and your family, and then live as closely in alignment with that, there's going to be peace abundant. And so that's where our conversation started a few years ago.
Yeah, and it was just really eye-opening to me because I had taken a core values assessment. And if you don't know, a core values assessment, it's just a big list of words, and we'll walk through that here in a little bit. But it helps you kind of pick out what are the things that matter most to you personally. What are those things that you just hold as really valuable? And so I had done that, but when Renelle said, like, oh, you have to actually live in alignment with that, I went, oh, like that, maybe that's why I feel off sometimes, because I have this value and I'm not actually living in alignment with you or with it. So what is that? What do you think like a symptom of that would look like then?
Well, I know for me, when life feels like it's taking over and I'm not intentional at setting our rhythms in alignment with those values, it feels really, really frantic. And so, yeah, I guess it would boil down to the fact that, am I owning life or is life owning me?
I love that. One thing that we've been walking through recently is like, is life happening to me, or am I actually making powerful choices? And I think that really comes from a place of making choices that are in alignment with our core values. And it's definitely made a difference there.
Yeah, I think that it's super easy to just get super busy and you're just trying to fulfill all the random things throughout just life in general, and it's easy to get away from what like your core value is, and next thing you know, you've got a mess in your hands and trying to get it all back lined up again.
Yeah, I think an example that you would have recently is that aha moment that you had on Sunday with the dirt bike. Well, you came home and you said, I've tried to be a fisherman and I've tried to be a hunter, and I've kind of just figured out I'm a dirt biker. Like, this is fun. And it's figuring out what makes you come alive and then saying, okay, that's the lane that I'm going to walk in.
How did that feel, like figuring that aha moment out?
Yeah, it was not so much all at once, but, coming to that realization that I still, I love being outside, and but I love the power sports more than just, the all the aspects of just hunting or just fishing. I guess it's the need for speed.
That's good.
Yeah.
I want to. We'll see how that plays out in your actual core values later. So one of the things that I have really appreciated about doing core values assessments, I mean, it's another assessment, just like kind of in the same lane that helps you with self-awareness, like taking the Enneagram test or a DISC or figuring out your love language. I mean, all of these things help us gain self-awareness and understanding of who we are, who God made us to be. And then but the core values, it helps you take it to the next level of like, are you living that out? And if you're not, it's going to feel like there's some tension there. And so I know for us, when we live within our core values, like you said, the fruit is just peace. And when we're not, I'm like, my anxiety is rising, my frustration, I'm way more easily frustrated with the kids or situations or whatever. And I would say too, it's been cool to watch the kids' core values come out, and then you can kind of see when they're not living in alignment with theirs, because they get off kilter. I don't know that they would necessarily be able to voice that though.
Yeah, I don't know if they have it all down on paper exactly where they are, but they're trying to get it figured out, I think, right now.
But I think that is the opportunity that we have as parents, is to help them realize that, and to say, like, I noticed this about you, and you've said this on paper on this assessment. Like, how do those line up, and how can we take more steps towards providing opportunities for you to live this way?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we want to do for you guys today is actually walk you through this family core values exercise that I created a couple of years ago. And so we're just going to walk through it step by step. You guys can download this from the show notes, and then you can go through it with your family. So the first page, and you can print off, there's only one copy of each of these things, but you can print off multiples for every adult and kid. Depending on the ages of your kids will be decide which one you want to use. But will you show that blank one for me? Yeah, so that is just says personal core values, and it just has a huge list of words. And so what you're going to do first is take that list of words and like put a dot next to anything that even slightly resonates with you. And then once you go through the list that first time, then you'll go through it again, and you'll keep whittling it down and narrowing it down until you get to your top 5. But then really you want to drill it down to what your top 2 are. So you guys want to share what that looked like for you guys when you did it with your families, or just with you personally?
Yeah, so we just recently worked this just to say, like, is this truly how we've been operating? And we just sat down individually and went through it in the process that you said, where started with a bigger group and whittled it down. But I will say it takes being in the right mindset to do this, because if you're just tired, a lot of these words can sound like, yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me. I value that. But the whittling down process takes some mental energy to really say, yeah, this actually matters the most to me.
Yeah. And I think the other really important thing to note here is that you want to take this particular one with your family in mind. I mean, you could do it again with your job in mind or whatever, because our core values do differ just a little bit from one place to another if you're thinking of yourself in a different role. Yeah.
How was it for you when you took it recently?
Yeah, I was just thinking that it takes me a lot longer to change mindsets. So I took this after work, and it was very difficult to keep family in mind. Yeah, not even sure I did it justice, but I don't know. I was sitting here thinking, I'm not sure how long it would take me to decompress from work. And, it might be from Friday all the way to Saturday, and try and do this again on a Saturday and see if it's any different.
I know that we've had the conversation of the very first time you guys took it and how frustrating it was. I would love to hear that because I think that a lot of families would see themselves in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll let you tell it from your perspective, but I walked into it okay guys, family meeting. When we get done with this, I knew I needed to bribe them with something really happy at the end, and so I was like, we're gonna have ice cream as soon as we're done. Yeah, and then I was like, all right, everybody spread out and let's do this. And then What happened?
I don't really remember what happened because it wasn't meaningful. Like, it was just, I don't know. Like, I just kind of checked off some things from what I remember. And like, then I feel like we just battled like who was more important after that.
Yeah. And the kids were like, Mom, why are you making us do this? We just want ice cream. It was a little bit rough. And I ended up super upset. So
I would love to hear then, because that's a common scenario of one spouse valuing the process more so than the other. And like, how has it changed over time so that it's something that you value as much now, and walking through, I don't know, that shift?
I'm not exactly sure, but I think that if you can get in the right mindset to just like clear your mind and actually do it versus feel like you're being bribed or persuaded or whatever. I don't know how to get into that mindset necessarily. It's kind of been like we've worked on that for a little bit. I don't know. I need help on this one.
Yeah. Well, I know, I think you and I just ended up doing it, just the two of us. And that was a little bit easier because it wasn't the pressure of like the kids and all of that. And I remember it came out that that your top one was adventure. And it was like a light bulb came on in my head. Like, oh my goodness, for the first, so before that even, my top one ended up being order and adventure. Like, I was like, oh, that explains everything. Like, that explains all the conflict and whatever, that we had faced in the early part of our marriage. And I just thought, like, oh my goodness, like, here I've been for years, like, no, you can't go hunt. No, you can't be outside. I need you home. I don't like it when you just make plans last minute on me or whatever. And I was being super controlling because I felt so disordered. But what I didn't realize I was doing was like suffocating his core value of adventure. And so but it was a really cool light bulb moment, I think, for both of us. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely, like, with having a core value of just adventure, I'd love to just literally have no plan and just go out and end up who knows where. And that just does not work with her. And even nowadays, like, I'm like, okay, this weekend I'm going to go do something. And she's like, what are you going to go do? I don't know yet. I'm probably just going to load up and just go. And like, where are you going to go? I don't know yet.
I'm like, I need the itinerary, please, written out.
Yeah, it's really funny.
So it sounds like through the process of figuring it out and being connected, right? Like, that's really, really important that we've been talking a lot about just over the course of other opportunities is the importance of connection and having the conversation back and forth of what matters to each of you, and it's a give and a take.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was our episode right before this, episode 1 with Ben and Brittany Serple. We talked about connection, so you should totally go back and listen to that if you haven't. But yeah, I think we do have to start from that place of we have to be connected. Otherwise, it's, who's more important than the other one.
I mean, because nowadays, like as long as we are connected, we can have the conversation of me needing to go out for an adventure. And so now I try to at least get it on the book so that she has an idea of when I'm going to go. And
so there's an order to when you adventure.
Exactly. And
that's how you've
and I wonder if I should be like, this is my plan, but I know that I'm going to change it later on down the road. So I'm still trying to figure that one out. But
yeah. So when you're going through this, you can even think about things that like mattered to you even as a kid. So there's this story that my mom tells about me that she'd send me and my sister to our bedroom to clean it. It would be a filthy mess. And she'd come back in an hour and the room would still be a disaster, but I would have color coordinated all of my crayons. And my sister would have like discovered all of these like treasures that she hadn't seen in, 3 months or whatever. And so when I saw order, like not only did that speak to who I was now, but it hit a chord in who I had always been, that having things in order really matters to me. So when you take this though, what about the spouse who takes it, like if you had been like, well, adventure's my core value, so I'm just going to go do whatever I want, whenever I want. How would that work?
I think that we lived like that for a little while, and it really messy. But I don't think we understood that, like, the values, and now actually having the respect for what your value is, and know that now that I need this, and I know now that you need this, and really working together as a team and being connected to move forward in that. It's just been, everything's worked out a lot better, easier.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So what did you guys end up with as your highest values, and how do you see that play out just in your relationship with each other?
Well, individually, yeah, mine are adventure, fun, leisure, reliability, and reputation. And Renell's are efficiency, stewardship, leadership, teamwork, and a write-in, it looks like, wholeheartedness. We have not had a lot of time to discuss how these work together. Specifically, we've talked about our core values before, and how very similar to your guys' story, how it just takes a little bit more communication on, basically, my tank's a little empty. This is what I'm needing right now.
Yeah, and a story that we love to share is climbing the 14er that we did, our last one that we did together.
To share.
I think it's so telling. I love it. So I love hiking. Tyler tolerates hiking and goes out with me sometimes. But we had done a 14er a number of years ago.
Hiking with a purpose.
Getting to the top of a mountain
deer
on the
or
purpose.
an elk at the end, I can do it.
There's a dirt bike at the end, right? That you can ride down. Anyways, so this particular one, we were having a great time. It was difficult, but we got to about 13,000 feet, and we got to a saddle, and it wasn't the summit, but he looks at me and he says, "I'm not having fun anymore. I will wait here for you." So the honoring of the core value is, I hear that word fun, and I know that is so important to him. Like, okay, if I push him to accomplish the goal that's important to me, neither of us will be having fun anymore, and it will ruin the entire day. And so he was completely satisfied to sit at that elevation, wait for me to accomplish the goal that was important to me, come back down, and we walked out very happily together. But just hearing, I think what these core values do in communication is it gives you some key words to, like, oh, we're talking that this is like a deep issue here. This is something that's deeply rooted and important to you. I'm hearing you. It's not just a surface issue.
Absolutely. And the other thing that it's really helped me do in having those key words is it gives me a place to know how to join you. So it speaks volumes of love when we go adventure with you, right? Yeah.
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 Is it the same joy when I help you organize the desk?
Yes. So much so. It's like,
as long as your order is what it looks like for her, right?
maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've gotten more flexible about that. Teamwork is my second highest core value. So anytime that we're all working together to achieve order, I am a very happy person.
Yeah, well, and one of my highest one, no matter if it's work or family, is efficiency, getting things done in an efficient manner. And I think we've learned a lot about that, where I wake up with an agenda for the day, because this is, in my mind, the most efficient way that we can accomplish something. And knowing, okay, where's the fun in that? Tyler will often say, how do you see tomorrow going? So that he knows how to work some fun into it, right? Not just we get up and I've got marching orders for the day and we're efficiently done by the end of the day, and all I've done is met my core value and we missed out on the fun of the day.
Yeah, I love that you guys just really are intentional about making sure that you communicate to where both of you have that met in there.
Sometimes we're intentional.
Sometimes.
We have the language to be intentional, and it's a learning curve. I think that's what I want people to hear is, this is a tool and you can get better and better and better. No one's going to arrive perfectly.
No. And you're probably not going to just start out and have it all figured out or together.
Well, yeah, a hammer is a tool, but you don't want to hit your spouse over the head with this.
Good job. I love that. Yeah. No, so going back to our story of how I first introduced it to them, it was probably felt a little bit like a hammer to everybody. But once you do it on your own, grown-ups, then there is a kids page too. So that's right here. And I would say that this is probably good for like up to 10 years old, maybe a little bit older than that, like close to middle school. But it just has core values, but they actually just they color in the number of circles based on how important that is to them. But it's more things like having fun, to keep trying and not give up. It's like the explanation of what the word would be, and it's way more simple.
So we did this with our girls yesterday as well. And our girls are older than that, up to 10.
Mm-hmm.
It was very easy for them to do, but I feel like there's a little bit of depth that we can add to it.
Okay.
So I would say even for older students, it's a good starting point.
Okay.
Some of the words, because I don't feel like there's a middle section, a middle place for teens.
Well, maybe I need to make that.
Maybe, yeah. Because I know that they could do this one, but the adult one, but it would take some thought of like, what does this word actually mean? Where the one for kids, for students that you have here, it's really easy for them to answer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great to know. Our kids were not even teenagers yet whenever they first did it. So that's good to know that it worked for them too. Here's the reason why this matters to do with your kids. So when we first did this and we just did ours, it was really easy for us to be like, great, we've got this. Our family is all about adventure and order and teamwork and connection, or whatever. And then as our kids have gotten older, we've been like, oh wait, they're people too. And they need to have a say in this. So,
well, there are people too that God created them uniquely for a specific purpose. And so it's not just fitting our kids into our molds. It's allowing our kids to teach us, as well as helping them blossom into their purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And giving them a place of trust and safety to feel like, hey, my needs do matter in this family too. And I'm not just, especially as they get more into those like teenage years, when they're wanting to be independent more, and they're wanting to figure out, who did God make me? And it's cool to go through it this way because you get to help speak life into them, when I think teens can tend to start looking, everywhere else for who am I.
And I know when we had the conversation leading up to this, you guys were talking about wanting to form a place that your kids can see their values in, because they want to continue to be a part of that.
Yeah,
union.
absolutely. You want to speak a little bit to that?
Well, we take the kids, like we want all of us to be connected well. And so, having good conversations with them and staying connected, and then knowing like how to, sometimes they have, it's hard for them to have a voice sometimes in the family. They're not driving. They don't have a ton of freedom. And so I really think that it's a really big part of our jobs to still take these kids' core values and implement, make sure that we implement them into the family. Because it's just really easy for them to just they're the silent majority for the most part, or make it be more like that. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, because once they get to the age where they do have the vehicle, they do have a little bit more freedom. You want to have created an environment they feel like they are excited to be a part, so they stick around. It's not, okay, now I can escape and go pursue my values somewhere else.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. So that's what step 3 is to decide as a family what your core values are. So you'll list out yours, your spouse's, your kids, and then you're going to come up with about 6 that will be your family core values. And everybody should have their top 1 in there for sure. And then you can kind of talk through some of the others if there are some overlapping ones. And that is, it's not that this is the hard, fast, this is always the definition of our family, but you'll see as we keep going why it matters to have kind of some boundaries and clear lines set up for what it means to be a good or a Mitchell.
So what would that look like? I mean, we all kind of go through seasons in life, and, the winter season, the adventure. I mean, I guess, if you're really into skiing and all of that as a family, then that's great. But Do you guys see like the seasons, like that some things are kind of more like you adjust them differently, or is that?
That's a good question, because this last year it felt like we needed to do some adjusting, where all of a sudden I felt like, man, we are wasting a lot of time on the weekends, and this is, speaks to some of my core values, but inside, the girls, reading books in another room, or watching TV or doing yard work, but not being outside in the summer. And then like it seemed like we were doing winter things in the summer, where you're holed up and it's cold outside and all that. Man, we had a beautiful summer, and we should have been outside doing things and just out and about. When you don't have that ability in the winter, so I know that's literal seasons, but the season we're in, with the girls being 13 and 15, it's not, we shouldn't be in separate rooms. You should be spending as much time as you can together, because kind of like what you hinted at earlier, eventually they're gonna be at college and have their own lives. Mm-hmm. So right now is that time to strike, or the time to be together.
I think outside this process, one of the things that we've tried to do well is be intentional, and I know we're about to touch on that, but be intentional about looking ahead, what's coming. So we're going into school again. What do we say yes to that, or what do we say no to that informs our yes? And so following the actual seasons, but following school seasons, some summer seasons, it's really, really important to be proactive about that evaluation instead of letting the seasons take you over. And we experienced that a little bit this year with our daughter starting high school, and we tried to be high school's coming, it's going to look different, let's say no to a bunch of things. And man, it felt like we got hit, because the reality of there was a lot of stuff that we just weren't knowing to expect that took over the schedule. And suddenly we're going, man, we're missing some opportunities. How do we, in the middle of this now happening, it felt like we were scrambling, and that is not the intention that we like to live in. We like to be a lot more proactive than that, but it was just something new.
So would you say, like, to go through this and get through, time, 6 months, 9 months, a year, and then redo, or just bring this sheet back to the table and So I know for us, with being newer to this actual process, so our core values we've got pretty nailed down outside of the process, but the parts of the girls is and them being really clear on what that is, I think it's going to take some refining over time. Right.
And so reevaluating those parts of it is really important, I think.
So I guess to even add on to that, like if you're in a big season of growth, I mean, like whether professionally, spiritually, whatever it is, like if you've had this big climb, like should you just try to go back to your sheet of what your core value is and make sure that you didn't veer off like during that growth, or reassess the whole thing all over again?
I think it depends on if you feel at peace, like I'm in alignment, then stick with it and see what you've got. If you're like, I've had all this growth, but there's something that feels off, then I would definitely say to readdress it.
And to that point of our daughter starting high school, it just fell off. So there was a lot of opportunities to reevaluate, even not waiting, like something in the middle of the semester, it feels off, and we have got to get on top of this, because I can't see another 2 or 3 months.
Right. I was just thinking like in the love languages, like the seasons change, like sometimes, I mean, just things change, and so you want to redo that, fairly often. So like in this, would that be similar? So
yeah, I mean, I think you could definitely go back and look at it. Yeah. I for sure the last 2 pages, which we can go ahead and go to. So once you decide what your family core values are, you're actually going to name your season. And that means like just what are some things that describe your current season. So for us, like we are in the startup process of a business, or just a little bit past that, but we're definitely in kind of the trenches of small business startup. So that's a real thing, and it affects what we say yes to and what we say no to and where we put our finances and all of that. Having a high schooler is a part of that. Having a middle schooler who wants to go to youth night or whatever, like all of those things.
Well, the next steps of kids leaving the house.
Yeah. Right.
It's like a whole new life again,
Yep.
trying to readdress that.
Yeah. So that's why I had you guys choose 6 family core values, because in each season, as things shift and change, some of those will be easier to rise to the top. Like you said, like naturally in the summer, it is easier to be outside and adventuring. So it's like that, but it happens in the not super like natural realm too.
Right. I don't think that people need to go into this thinking all 6 have to be balanced. Yep. It's over the course of a year, we need to make sure that or a month or whatever the time frame is that you're looking at, we need to make sure we're hitting all these core values because we have defined that they are important to us, but it might not be like equal give and take of all of them.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think about the month of September, and it is archery hunting season, and Justin is archery hunting almost every single weekend, and I'm home canning because it is also harvest season, and that's a huge value for mine, even though most of the summer we're out together. In September, it doesn't look like that. And that's okay because we decided that it was okay ahead of time. So I don't feel left at home to do all the work, and you don't feel like you're being kept from what you want to pursue in that. All right. So the reason why we do all of this is because what we want to do is set boundaries, healthy boundaries, to protect our values. So boundaries are all about protecting something that matters to you. And so when you think about your current season and then you look at your values, the first thing that you're going to do is think of things that get in the way of those values. So, for instance, we started to have more evening activities, like small group and then youth night and then a class and then this or whatever. And suddenly our core value of connection, sitting around the dinner table together, you could tell, like it, either we were rushed or whatever. It just didn't feel right anymore. And so we realized, like, oh, all of these activities are getting in the way of that core value of connection for us. What would be an example of that for you guys?
Probably the exact same thing. Getting home from work, showering, and coming to record a podcast. No, I'm just teasing. But very, very similar. That, most of the week I am doing that. I'm getting home, turning around, and going right back out. If I'm not saving a trip home and staying in town. And you guys know what that is like. Yeah. So we've blocked out time on the calendar. Usually it's Thursday night. Mm-hmm. Thursday night is family night, and a lot during the weekend as well. But there is that time where that's it.
Right, and then having the conversation around, like, if there's a Thursday night that has to be scheduled for something mm-hmm. else, it takes a lot for that to get moved. And we've had a conversation around why, what matters more than family night in this instance, but it can't happen over and over and over again.
Yeah, we actually just instituted family night, I don't know, a month or two ago?
It's Tuesday night right now?
It's Tuesday nights, yeah. Yep, the podcast totally took.
So both of us are breaking our boundaries to be here tonight.
We're doing a great job of setting a good example. No, we will have family night probably Thursday night or Friday night of this week. So then the next part then is so what are you going to do to protect that? Like you said, like you put family night on the calendar. And what I love about that, and what I've loved from our experience of it, is that because we're saying yes to this, it makes a more clear yes to the other things, the other nights of the week, because you know that one night is protected. And obviously that's going to be different if you've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old and an infant. Like yeah. But as you guys are entering this season of middle schoolers and high schoolers and more activities and all of that, like, to protect one night, plus probably, like you said, the weekends, it does make a big difference.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is that one night is not enough. That's the bare minimum. That's what you you protect, with your back up against it.
You try to sneak in as many times, whatever.
Absolutely.
You can, and
that's
but
just
this one night. Like we're
that's
dedicated
the
to
one
this
you
one.
fight tooth and nail against. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so once you figure out how you're going to protect that value, I kind of want to. I was just thinking of one other quick example to give them that's not just family connection time, which is so important, but something more like adventure or efficiency, something that isn't necessarily family related.
Well, I know for me, part of the efficiency value that I have, it comes out after dinner. So we've made it a family rule, and that probably doesn't have to do with values, but it's whoever cooks dinner doesn't have to do dishes, but dishes get done right away. And then we can go off and have fun together. But if that's not done in an efficient manner, it starts to feel like this is dragging on longer than it has to. And so that's how we've ordered our evening, kind of without intention, but then my efficiency value is met, and your fun value after that is met. And you do bring fun to dishes with the girls. And
you have to, but if the dishes don't get done, it's not a big deal.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
But I do love that you support that. Even though it's not a value to you, you're like, okay, girls, let's get this done. And that's a way that you honor a value of mine.
Way to go, Tyler. That's awesome. Was there anything else on this? Yeah, so then you're just going to decide what you're going to do to move toward those values. So block out a night, decide that 1 weekend a month you're going to make sure that you're out in the woods, hiking, camping, or whatever. Everybody knows that we're going to make sure that the dishes are fun, even for dad, and so we're going to keep each other's values in mind, and we're going to intentionally pursue them.
And I want to say one thing with that, Sarah, that as we talked about earlier, it has to be done together. That those deciding your boundaries have to be done together. Otherwise, it feels like I'm just taking and looking out for mine. So yes, you decide as a family what your boundaries are.
Yep. And so just a couple of tips and tricks from my big failure in doing this. You can spread it out. You don't have to do the whole exercise packet in one sitting. Definitely bribe everybody. And by that, I mean, just let there be some fun to it. Let there be either a game at the end of it or ice cream or just something that everybody will enjoy.
Well, on the same note, you get this list of words, and there's it looks like a lot. There's a lot of words there. And so maybe even just hey, glance over this. There's a lot of words here. Anything stand out to you? And then a little bit later, hey, let's actually pick out a couple of those or something. But there's a lot of words there. I'm just saying.
There's a lot of words there.
You're starting to read it, and they all start blending together.
They all sound important too. Uh-huh. And I want to say you're not a bad person for choosing some over others.
Right.
I read through these and I was like, oh, but I have to cross that out because it's not as important as this other one. But does that make me a bad person because I'm not valuing friendships anymore? No, I still value friendships. It's just not as much.
I do have a question. You've got faith, and so it's on my a core value of mine is not faith. It's a big part of our family. It's a big part of our life. But a core of me, faith is not. I'm gonna pick adventure. And so many, or 4 other things.
Right.
But you're not a bad Christian because of that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what I guess I'm asking you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's because it doesn't come out in my core values either, even though so much of our family is centered around it. Right.
Yep.
Because actually I think it's more that God uses those core values of mine, of order and teamwork and all of that in my, as a part of my faith. I think that this exercise in and of itself is a faith and discipleship tool, more than just a self-help kind of thing. Yeah. Awesome. Anything else you guys want to add?
No, I think we covered a lot of it.
Yeah, I would just encourage people. It's a tool for intentionality. Mm-hmm. And it's like I said at the beginning, it's so important to align your life in the direction that you want to go, using this as a tool instead of just let life happen to you.
Yeah. So if you would say right now, listening to this or watching it, that you're like, man, my life just does not it feels chaotic. It feels like I'm at everybody's like whim. I don't have any control. This might be a good, easy, really like pretty entry level starting place for you to kind of go like, oh, that's why, because I really care about this and that need really, because I think some of these do boil down to needs isn't being met. So I hope that you guys find this encouraging and helpful. You guys are welcome to send in questions if you have them. We'd love to answer. And yeah, we just bless you guys on the rest of your day. And I'll just pray for us really quick. So God, thank you so much for all these listeners and watchers, and just pray that you would bless them, that you would give them your keen insight into what they are into what they've heard, into what they're learning. I pray that you would give them the opportunity to share this with their families without being overbearing and controlling and using a hammer. But I pray that you just give them grace, and that these tools would be things that they could use to just encourage discipleship and growth and community and connection in their families. We just bless them. And we just say thank you for who you are. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.